I still remember the scent of that late spring evening. The air was thick with blooming lilac and a distant promise of thunder. Our town was one of those quiet places stitched between hills and half-forgotten highways, where everyone knew your name, your business, and your father's business before you. That year, everything felt weightless, like it was on the edge of something bigger. We were all graduating. Life was supposed to begin. Anna had been my everything since sophomore year. She wore her hair in loose waves, a style she never changed, and her laugh, God, her laugh, had this way of cutting through noise like sunlight on a lake. We'd talk about leaving our small town behind, building a life somewhere louder, somewhere we didn't have to be Anna and Jason, the perfect couple, but just us. I'd proposed 3 weeks before graduation. Nothing fancy, just a small picnic by the lake we always used to sneak off to, a modest ring I'd saved months for, and my heart in my throat the entire time. She said yes with tears in her eyes, and for a while, it felt like I was holding the world in my hands. Our graduation party was supposed to be the start of everything. A celebration not just of endings, but beginnings. Our beginning. The party was hosted in a rustic hall just outside town, a place with string lights and floorboards that groaned like old secrets. Everyone who mattered was there. Family, friends, classmates already halfway drunk on cheap beer and nostalgia. It was noisy, joyful, messy in the way only those rare, honest nights could be. Anna looked stunning that night. She wore a burgundy dress that clung to her in all the right ways, her dark eyes lined with something smoky and wild. I couldn't stop staring. People noticed, too. The way I kept my hand on her lower back, how she'd lean in closer when we talked, the soft touches that passed between us like static. But not everyone saw us the way I did. And one pair of eyes, in particular, watched her like she was already gone. Mr. Hensley. David Hensley had been our AP history teacher. Mid-40s, well-kept, with that quietly intense presence teachers with too many degrees and not enough life sometimes carried. Students admired him, joked about his mysterious past, rumors of a failed marriage, time spent teaching abroad, maybe even a stint in military intelligence. No one really knew. He kept himself closed like a file folder with a broken clasp. He'd always been kind to Anna. Encouraging. Complimentary. Harmless, we all thought. Maybe too enthusiastic when she stayed after class. Maybe too willing to offer help when she didn't need it. But he was a teacher. She was a student. The line felt permanent. Impenetrable. Until it wasn't. I don't know exactly when I first felt it, that hairline fracture in the perfect picture. Maybe it was the way she smiled when he walked in that night, or how her hand found her necklace when he laughed at something she said. I caught them talking near the back of the hall, voices low, faces too close. It didn't look like a conversation. It looked like a reunion. I walked over, pretending to refill our drinks, just in time to hear her laugh, breathy and flustered, as he touched her arm gently. Jason, she said brightly, too brightly. We were just talking about college. David, Mr. Hensley, was telling me about his time at Stanford. I smiled tightly. That's so. He extended a hand. Jason, congratulations, man. You've got a great future ahead. Thanks, I replied, gripping his hand a second longer than polite. Appreciate that. The conversation died quickly after. I could feel her eyes following him as he walked away. The night went on. More drinks, more dancing, but Anna seemed distant. She danced with her friends, but didn't ask me to join her. She smiled for pictures, but didn't lean into me like she used to. I told myself I was imagining things, that it was just a weird night, that we were both overwhelmed. But something in me wouldn't quiet down. Sometime past midnight, the crowd thinned. Couples began peeling off, car doors slammed in the gravel lot outside, laughter echoed and faded. I couldn't find Anna. I asked her best friend, who shrugged and pointed toward the hallway near the back exit. The hallway was dimly lit, quiet, except for the soft thud of music leaking from the main room. That's where I found them. Her back was to the wall, his hand on her hip. Their mouths locked like they were trying to erase everything else. Her leg curled around his, her fingers tangled in the collar of his shirt. It wasn't a kiss of curiosity, it was hunger, years in the making. And I wasn't even a thought in that moment. I stood there unmoving. My hands were fists at my sides, my chest hollow. It didn't feel real, like I'd stepped out of my body and was watching some low-budget drama unfold. But the nausea in my gut said otherwise. The ring on her finger, still catching the light, said otherwise. She saw me first. Her eyes widened, breath caught mid-kiss, and she pushed him away like it hadn't meant anything, like she could undo what had already detonated in my chest. Jason, she started, voice trembling. But I didn't wait to hear it. I turned and walked. Out of the hall, out into the humid night, past cars and puddles, and startled classmates who called after me. I didn't stop. Couldn't. My legs carried me past the edge of town before I realized I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew it wasn't home, and it sure as hell wasn't back to her. The night after I caught them burned itself into my skin like a brand. I wandered aimlessly through town, then into the woods behind my parents' house, retracing the same trails Anna and I had once used for stolen kisses and lazy Sunday walks. Now, the trees whispered differently, no longer sacred but shadowed, indifferent. Each step seemed to echo the truth I couldn't ignore. She had chosen someone else in the space of a single night. No, that wasn't right. She hadn't chosen him last night. That kiss wasn't new. It was the surface of something deeper, an undercurrent of betrayal stretching back further than I'd let myself believe. I didn't go home. I couldn't stomach the look on my mother's face, the inevitable worry in her voice. Instead, I crashed at Mike's place. He'd been my best friend since third grade, and to his credit, he didn't press for details. Just opened the door, handed me a beer, and said, "Whatever happened, we'll burn it down later." I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My brain wouldn't quiet down. It cycled through memories of Anna. Our first kiss by the creek, the time she cried into my chest when she got rejected from her dream college, the way she'd trace lazy circles on my shoulder while we watched old movies. Every tender moment now felt poisoned, tarnished. By sunrise, anger started to curl beneath the surface of my sadness. I hated myself for not seeing it sooner. There had been signs. The sudden interest in staying late for study sessions, the way she downplayed my concerns with half-hearted explanations and soft kisses meant to sedate, not soothe. I didn't want to be the suspicious boyfriend, so I gave her space. Trusted her. What a fool I'd been. Later that morning, I finally turned on my phone. For missed calls. All from her. One voicemail. Just her voice, trembling, whispering through static. "Jason, I made a mistake. Please don't shut me out. Can we talk?" I deleted it without listening to the rest. The next few days blurred together. I avoided our usual spots. Mike, being the loyal friend he was, told everyone who asked that I'd gone out of town to clear my head. The truth was simpler. I was hiding. Not just from her, but from the entire version of myself that still believed in her. By day 4, she showed up at my house. I heard the knock while I was in the garage. My hands were greasy from trying to fix up my old motorcycle, the one we'd planned to ride cross-country next summer. Another shared dream now rusting. I ignored it. But the knocking didn't stop. Eventually, I opened the door, already bracing for the storm. Anna stood there in jeans and a pale yellow hoodie that hung too loose on her frame. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched her phone like it was a lifeline. "Jason," she said, voice thin. "Please, talk to me." I didn't invite her in. I stepped outside and let the door click shut behind me. She flinched at the sound. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she started. "It was a mistake, it just—" "How long?" I cut in. "What? How long has it been going on?" She looked down. "A few months." The air left my lungs. I had expected weeks, maybe, but months? With him? I asked, though I didn't need confirmation. Her silence was enough. I shook my head and stared out toward the horizon, where clouds gathered thick and low like judgment. "You don't understand," she said, stepping closer. He listened to me, made me feel important, like I wasn't just someone's girlfriend or someone's daughter. He saw me, and I didn't. My voice cracked despite my best effort to keep it level. "Anna, I loved you. I know you did. That's what makes this so hard." I laughed, bitter and cold. "You don't get to say that. You don't get to play the heartbroken one." She looked like she wanted to reach out, but I stepped back. "You used to be my home," I said quietly. "Now you're just a reminder of everything I was too blind to see." Her lip trembled, but I turned and walked away before she could reply. Back into the garage. Back into silence. That night, I opened the box where I'd kept the ring. I stared at it for a long time, wondering how something so small could represent a world that no longer existed. Eventually, I drove to the lake, the same one where I'd proposed. The moon was high, silver on black water. The trees whispered again. I tossed the ring into the lake. It didn't make a sound when it hit the surface, just vanished into the dark. Summer passed in fragments. I took up odd jobs around town, repair work, hauling lumber for a local contractor, anything that kept my hands busy and my mind numb. People whispered. Of course they did. Small towns feast on scandal, and Anna's betrayal was prime meat. She left town for a while. I heard she went to stay with her cousin 2 hours south. Probably a good idea. I couldn't imagine the courage it would take to face everyone after what she did. But she wasn't the only one haunted. Everywhere I went, I saw shadows of her. A song playing at the gas station. A scent that caught me off guard. A dress in a window that looked like the one she wore that night. My chest clenched each time, like grief kept slapping me just to remind me I was still bleeding. Then, in late August, a letter came. It was handwritten. No return address. Just my name in her looping script. Inside was a folded page, heavy with crossed-out lines and tear stains. She wrote about regret. About how that night hadn't been a beginning for her and Hensley, but an end. That whatever fantasy she'd chased crumbled the moment she saw me standing there. She hadn't spoken to him since. Said she felt empty, hollowed out by her choices. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She said she didn't deserve it. She just wanted me to know that I was never second best, never not enough, that she had broken something precious and was still trying to figure out why. I read it twice, then burned it in the fire pit out back. Some stories don't need closure, just space to breathe. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But still, as the flames licked at the paper, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe. The start of letting go. The summer eventually gave way to fall, as it always does in our little town. The leaves changed, the days grew shorter, and the edges of everything seemed softer somehow, like time was dulling what it couldn't erase. But I wasn't healed. Not really. Just quieter. Numb in a way that became familiar. By then, everyone knew. The story had traveled fast. Whispers in the diner. Long looks at the hardware store. I wasn't just Jason anymore. I was the guy whose fiancée had cheated on him with their old teacher at the graduation party. A local tragedy. An open secret no one dared to say aloud, but everyone carried like a shared myth. It would have been easier to leave, I think. To pack up and vanish into a bigger city where people didn't know me, where I wasn't haunted by the ghost of a relationship that ended before it was meant to. But I stayed. Out of stubbornness or pride, or maybe just fear of starting over. Anna returned in mid-September. I saw her first at the farmer's market. She was standing by the honey vendor, talking to an old woman who used to be her babysitter. Her hair was shorter now, jaw-length and choppy. She wore less makeup, dressed in denim and flannel, and looked smaller somehow, like life had compressed her. I didn't walk over. I didn't need to. She glanced up and saw me. Our eyes met. She didn't smile. Neither did I. She just looked sad. Not ashamed. Not broken. Just deeply, quietly sad. And I understood in that moment that her story hadn't turned out any better than mine. That maybe we were both just casualties of the same explosion, limping away in opposite directions. But life, as it tends to do, doesn't stop for grief. I had work to do, bills to pay, people to avoid. I kept my head down, kept moving. Days turned into weeks, and the pain became a dull throb rather than a scream. Then came the news that rewrote everything again. Mr. Hensley had resigned. It came through a short article in the local paper. Respected educator departs after long tenure. There was no mention of scandal, of course, but the gossip filled in the blanks. A few students whispered that the school board had received an anonymous letter detailing his inappropriate relationships. Others claimed someone had threatened to go public. One kid even said he was caught on security cameras somewhere he shouldn't have been. I never found out what was true. I didn't really care. But the night I read that article, I did something I hadn't done in months. I took out my journal. Not the one I'd started when Anna and I got engaged. That one stayed buried in a box under my bed. This was a new one. Blank pages. Clean spine. A place to start over. I wrote only a single line that night. Pain doesn't make you wise. It makes you choose. I didn't know what I meant yet, but it felt right. Felt like mine. A week later, Anna showed up at the garage where I worked part-time. She didn't come inside. Just stood at the edge of the lot near the old vending machine, hands tucked into her coat, eyes steady. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked over. She didn't wait for me to speak. I didn't come to apologize, she said. Good. I replied, leaning against the machine. I came to say thank you. That threw me. For what? For not destroying me. I looked at her, trying to gauge if she was mocking me, but she wasn't. Her face was earnest. Tired. You could have told everyone everything, she said. Name names. Humiliated me. You didn't. Didn't need to, I said. You did that yourself. She winced slightly but nodded. We stood in silence for a long time, the distant hum of a lawnmower somewhere across town filling the space between us. He's gone, she said. I know. She stared off toward the horizon. I thought I loved him. And now? She hesitated. Now I think I was just trying to escape. From who I was. From everything I thought I wanted. Her voice cracked a little. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to matter to someone. You mattered to me. She nodded, eyes glossy. I know. And I'm sorry I couldn't see that before I ruined it. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The words hung in the air like smoke, already fading. I'm moving next month, she said. My aunt offered me a job in Asheville. It's time. I nodded. She took a step back. Goodbye, Jason. I didn't say it back. Just watched as she walked away, her boots kicking up dust on the gravel, the autumn wind tugging at the hem of her coat. Later that night, I drove to the lake again. It looked different in the fall. The water darker, the trees skeletal. But it was still the place where everything began. And ended. And maybe now, could begin again. I skipped stones across the surface until my arms ached. Each ripple felt like a page turning. There was no letter this time. No ring. No dramatic moment of closure. Just me. Alone. And okay. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Not because the pain was gone, it wasn't. But because I'd finally stopped holding my breath, waiting for something that would never return. The next morning, I started applying to colleges again. I'd taken a gap year before. Now I was ready. Not to forget her, but to remember myself. To start living forward. But just as I sealed the last application envelope, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mike. You need to see this. Now. Attached was a picture. A blurry photo. Of Anna. And Mr. Hensley. Together. Not months ago. Yesterday. Smiling. Holding hands. In a town 2 hours south. The caption beneath read. Thought she said it was over. I stared at the photo, my chest hollowing again. Something sharp returning to the surface of my mind. She'd lied. Again. I sat there, staring at the photo on my screen, the blue light of my phone casting shadows across my face. My coffee had gone cold on the table. I hadn't even taken a sip. The image was grainy, probably taken from across the street, but it was unmistakable. Anna, in that same burgundy coat she'd worn our last fall together, hand in hand with David Hensley outside a small cafe near Asheville. Smiling. Comfortable. As if the wreckage she'd left behind was nothing more than a misstep on her way to something better. I didn't move for a long time. It wasn't the betrayal that stunned me. I'd already lived through that. No, it was the performance. The moment in front of the garage, her quiet goodbye. The hollow apology. The story of leaving him behind for good. All of it rehearsed. Polished. Delivered with trembling eyes and carefully measured pain. And I'd almost bought it. That's what gutted me the most. Not that she lied, but that I wanted to believe her. The next morning, I drove to Mike's. He was already out on the porch, waiting, arms folded, looking like he hadn't slept either. I didn't want you to find out that way, he said as I stepped out of my truck. I nodded, jaw tight. Was it recent? He sighed. The photo was taken yesterday morning. Friend of my cousin saw them, recognized her from graduation. Thought I should know. She told me she was leaving town. He looked away. Guess she was. Just not the way you thought. We sat in silence, the wind scattering dry leaves across the porch like whispers. I don't get it, I finally said. Why go through all the effort of pretending to end things? The fake remorse? Why come back at all? Mike shrugged. Maybe to clear her conscience. Maybe she wanted to rewrite the story. If you forgave her, even halfway, it'd be easier to justify what she did. I shook my head. She doesn't get to make herself the victim. She's not. But some people need to feel like they are to sleep at night. That night, I took one final trip to the lake. It had become a kind of ritual for me. A quiet, sacred space to exhale. But this time, I didn't go to mourn. I went to let go. I sat on the same rock where I'd proposed, pulling from my jacket the last remnants of what she'd left me. Her letter, the picture Mike had sent, and the graduation photo that had once lived on my nightstand. now creased and dull from months of being face down in a drawer. One by one, I tossed them into the fire pit beside me, watching them curl and blacken as the flames swallowed everything. The lies, the memories, the hope that maybe she had meant what she said. The smoke rose into the night, and for the first time in nearly a year, I felt light. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure from her. I just needed me back. Weeks passed, then months. I started at the university in January, a small liberal arts college just a few towns over. It wasn't some grand reinvention, but it was mine, my routine, my space. New people, new places, new pieces of life stitching themselves together. I focused on my studies. I rebuilt old friendships. I even met someone. Her name was Nora. She wasn't anything like Anna. She had this calm, quiet presence, more strength in her silences than most people had in their words. We met in a philosophy class, of all places. We argued about free will versus determinism during a group project, and I liked that she didn't back down when I pushed. I didn't tell her about Anna at first. I didn't want that story to define me. But one rainy afternoon, she asked, gently, "What broke you?" And I told her. All of it. The graduation night. The hallway. The betrayal. The letter. The lie. She listened without interruption. And when I finished, she didn't offer pity or advice. She just took my hand and said, "That kind of grief doesn't leave. You just learn how to carry it differently." She was right. Because even now, months later, on a random Tuesday in spring, I still think of Anna sometimes. A scent in the wind, a song in a cafe. I don't hate her anymore. I don't love her either. She's just a shadow, a turning point. And I've turned. One evening, I got a message on Facebook from an old classmate. A screenshot, a headline. Former history teacher David Hensley under investigation for inappropriate conduct. Apparently, another student had come forward. And another. One of them underage. The article didn't name names, but it didn't have to. The school board was reopening files, and suddenly, the man who once seemed untouchable was unraveling in front of everyone. Anna wasn't mentioned, but I wondered if she saw it. If she felt anything. Regret. Shame. Relief. I'd never know. And I no longer cared to. I didn't click on the article. I didn't share it or send it to Mike. I just closed the tab and opened my university portal. I had a paper due and a life to keep building.